Technology is hereby called to order. The book of Hosea tells us that my people die because of lack of knowledge. Although yung etong circumstance o yung pagkasabi po nito ay paano ka maliligtas kung hindi mo kilala ang Panginoon, ito'y ma-apply natin sa buhay natin, di ba? Na paano makaka-apply ng scholarship ang isang estudyante kung hindi niya alam may programa ang gobyerno, di ba? Paano natin masosolve yung ibang mga issues na akala natin luma yung solusyon, may solusyon pala ang DOST. So magpapaalam lang ako kay Senator Brother Robin. Usually po, we start with the Senator's opening statements. But etong buong pandemic, paulit-ulit ng sinasabi, let's listen to the scientist. So today, we have an esteemed colleague, 38 years sa service from the ranks, at tuwan-tuwa ang community, no? Scientific community sa ating bansa na siya po ang naitalaga bilang senador. I have to apologize this morning because this is not the CA. Kung CA to, i-confirm ka na namin ni Robin, but this is the committee. So what we can do, sir, is to give you the honor. I think this will be the first committee hearing wherein ang nag-opening statement ay yung department at hindi yung senador. So, Secretary, very much welcome and congratulations in advance sa'yo po.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, and to my colleagues in DOST. Since the Senator mentioned Hosea, let me share with you 1 Chronicles 16, verse 8. Give thanks unto the Lord, call upon His name, make known His deeds among the people. On this present situation with the global political tension, supply chain restrictions, especially on oil and also on food, it is hard to tell something good. For many people are not anymore interested in hearing the good words. What they want are actions to make them believe that what we are talking are true. Thus, as leaders and as government employees, we must always set the example in order to inspire, motivate, and encourage our people. So, sabi ko nga po, kanina sa flag ceremony, let us tell the goodness of the Lord through our good deeds. And so, given that background, the Department of Science and Technology is composed of 18 organizations, 16 regional offices, and 80 provincial science and technology offices. We are doing so many things because we have specialized organizations doing research and development and scientific and technical services. We need to make sure that we are able to tell a very good narrative, tell good stories to our leaders, to our people on what science, technology, and innovation can do. We must start first by making sure that we act together as one. That is why we decided that we will continue the hashtag science and technology for the people, but we also will add another hashtag, one DOST for you. And you would be individuals, families, communities, everyone in the country. And so given this opportunity for us to really show that science, technology, and innovation can address global problems and facilitate the economic and social agenda of the present administration for the maximum socio-economic benefit of the people, DOST will be ready, Mr. Senators, to show you the priority programs of DOST. Maraming pong salamat.
Secretary, thank you very much for that very, very meaningful words. And as I see the commitment to do very meaningful works, and honestly, it's so refreshing to see you personal at hindi disaster o bagyo yung ina-announce mo kung hindi good news. So now I see the other side of you. I hope people will also see the other side of me because every time na I have a light moment either with Brother Robin nung una kami nagkakilala at sabi niya, di ka pala seryoso parate. Sabi ko, seryoso ako pero mabigat ang mga problema, mag-smile naman tayo, no? So I will ask Senator Robin Hood Padilla to give an opening statement. But before that, because he'll have to rush to a quick meeting with Secretary Tulfo upstairs, with your permission, Senator, para lang mapasa natin yung rules. Wala namang pagbabago. No? So this is the same rules naman at alam mo naman hindi naman contentious yung Science and Technology Department except marami tayong dapat gawin at maraming dapat how do I put it, communication para mas yakapin ng ating mga kababayan na essential ingredient ang science, technology, and innovation sa progress. So I will now accept any motion to adopt the Senate rules governing this committee.
Opo, sinusundan ko po ang hakbangin po ninyo, mahal na tagapangulo.
Thank you. So I consider that a motion, and if there is no objection, we will now be using the pertinent provisions in the Senate rules governing the rules of the committee. So I'll acknowledge Senator Robin Padilla and thank him for being always present in the committees that this humble representation have been chairing, and just ask my staff to please remind me pagka yung constitutional yung committee on constitutional change that he chairs so that I can return the favor at napag-usapan namin during the campaign yan, no. You might want to know, Senator, that I'm sure you already know, may mga constitutional provisions on science and technology. Unfortunately, as the Secretary said, words na lang eh. Kasi kung titignan natin budget nila, and we'll go into that later on, no? So I know you want to meet and hear Senator Robin, then we will excuse him for a while for a important meeting, but I think he will try to join us after his meeting. Senator?
Maraming salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo. Una po sa lahat, magandang tanghali po sa lahat ng aming mga bisita, sa lahat ng mga pinuno, sa lahat po ng miyembro. Ngayon ko lang po nakitang ganito puno rito. Talaga po, ang pagpasok ko kanina, nagulat ako eh. Aba, ano ba meron? Ganun po pala kayo kasolid. At napakaganda pong sinyalis niyan sapagkat napakahalaga po ng usapin ng science and technology. Lalo po sa panahon po natin ngayon na tayo po ay nakapaikot sa mundo na lahat ay nagbabago. Kasama na po dyan ang climate change, ito pong dumadating sa atin na mga virus, mga sakit. Diyan po lumalabas ang kahalagahan po ninyo. At sa akin pong palagay at sa palagay din po ng aking guro ko po yan eh. Yan ang aking laging nagtuturo sa akin. Dapat pong bigyan ng pansin ang kagawaran po ninyo. Yahan po ang isang bagay na panlaban natin. Buhay po ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, buhay ng mga tao. Kapag handa po tayo sa climate change, pagkahanda po tayo sa mga virus na dadating, ibig pong sabihin yan, marami pong masasagip na buhay. Kaya po, nung nag-usap kami ng ating tagapangulo, sinabi ko po sa kanya na isama mo naman ako dyan sa committee na yan. At asahan po ninyo na nakasuporta po ako sa inyo. At lalong-lalo na po yung nandito na ibinigay ng aking legislative, yung patungkol po sa Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines Act. Tsaka po yung Resilience sa Disaster and Climate Change. Yun po, ako po, hindi ko na po pagkakahabaan. Gusto ko lang pong sabihin po sa inyo na ang usapin ng science ay technology ay mapagpalaya. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. Again, I'd like to thank Senator Robin Hood for being very active at saka yung mga insights na bibigay niya. So, kung makakabalik ka, kasi kung hindi ka makakabalik, science naman, marami kang mako-contribute dito, ha?
Yes, boss. Babalik ako, boss. Agad.
We'd also like to recognize a former chair of this committee. Sa Senado, maraming magkapatid eh. So merong good one. Ito siguro sa pamilya namin, the better one or the more intelligent one. So Senator Pia Cayetano, do you want to make a opening statement or maya-maya?
Maybe mamaya-maya para sabay-sabay na lang with some comments, no? Thank you.
So before we
Good
go to the
afternoon lang to
briefing
everybody.
with uh, I'd like to tell you the plans of the committee. No? First and foremost, we want you to consider the committee a partner. This morning, ate, sinabi ko kay Secretary, since I drive by the department every day going to work, no, or wherever, kasi dyan ako nakatira ni Lani sa likod ng kampo. So you don't have to complain about the traffic check kasi nakikita at nararanasan. Medyo napatagal yung widening. We have to thank you for pumayag nga kayo na mag-widening tayo, pati yung PNP and CRPO. And, you know, I've seen how the country has developed, how people have become poorer and richer at the same time, and how science and technology has continually helped the country develop, pero how its status as the driver for progress and develop has always been, how do I put it? You know, parang sa opisina, ikaw yung quiet worker, or kumbaga sa sales, ikaw yung pinakamaraming nabebenta. Pero hindi ka nare-recognize, hindi tinataas sweldo mo, hindi ka nabibigyan ng sasakyan, no? So, as your partner, I think one of the first things we should work together on is how to bring to the young people, you know, in the sense that in the 1990s, after the Asian crisis, the Koreans who are similar to the Filipinos dahil kung tayo ay merong 10 million Filipinos abroad, sila mas less yung population pero millions din abroad at may Korean town sila everywhere. They made a conscious effort na yung K-pop, yung K-drama, yung culture, diba? They made a conscious decision that this is going to be one of the industries we're going to pour everything into, no? Not only the talents, the products, the geography, etc. No? So, since the President has been also talking about the importance of science and technology, and I think all presidents have done, the question is lang which one will put it front and center. Please consider this committee and this representation as a partner. We're neighbors, charity begins at home. That's why medyo humble lang yung handa namin for your lunch today, aristocrat. But it's symbolic because we look at you as the aristocrats of our country. But as you know, we're neighbors, so if you will allow, we will have a lunch or dinner, no, to also celebrate. Pagka-confirm na ni Secretary, kasi kami ni Secretary hindi kami superstitious. Kasi sabi ng pastor namin, wag maniniwala sa sa swerte, kasi malas yon. Okay? Swerte malas. You're a scientist, you believe in ano. So, tapusin natin yung confirmation process. Having said that, you know, ang mga kapatid natin sa media are here. We know very well, and siguro i-update ko just as a kwento sa media. Katabi kasi sa harap ng DOST is yung kampo, and then sa likod nun is a industrial estate. Yun ang katabi ng bahay namin. There used to be more than 100 companies there. One is na very well known nung araw is Sanyo. Ngayon, mga pharmaceuticals meron pa doon, no? The heyday of electronics between FTI, Veteran Center, and yung Santa Teresa Industrial Estate na katabi ng bahay namin, we had more than 500 corporations. And yung mga electronics sa mga sasakyan, yung mga radio, halos dyan ginagawa, di ba, yung mga drives. And then of course, towards late 90s, 2000, lumipat yan ng Cavite, then to China. And ang naging problema natin, nawalan talaga ng trabaho kasi factories was one of the easiest to retrain people to go to. At kahit may edad ka na, basta't may learning capacity ka. Kasi I want to relate that to Thailand and Vietnam, na pag pumunta ka sa kanila, buhay na buhay yung kanilang manufacturing. And pag DTI ang kausap natin or private sector, economic yung kanilang reasons. But if you talk to the scientists, they will tell you we only spend 0.2% of our GDP on research and development, but Singapore spends 1.8, Thailand and Vietnam spends 1%, 'di ba? So times 5 ah, yung ginagastos nila. So it's not by accident. Ang daling i-explain in economic terms kasi mas mura labor doon, kasi ganito, kasi ganyan, etc. But if you look at the economies of Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, they're very much different. No? Iba yung style ng Singapore sa Thailand at Vietnam. Yet, all of them are beating us in this, no? And in many other things, no? I saw dun sa briefer, and hindi kita pangunahan, but just one line, na marami sa inyong focus ngayon ay yung agriculture, no? And again, without seeing the data, I'm very much sure yung gastos ng Thailand sa R&D sa agriculture is much less than us, no? Just two more points, no?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just make a quick intervention about Thailand? What I'm about to say is, I'm sure, not new to any scientist, no? But I just want you to know that we hear you. At the height of the pandemic, maybe a year ago or so, a year and a half ago, when there were reports that Thailand was working on a vaccine, something like that, there was so much comments from politicians. Bakit tayo wala? Bakit tayo wala? Okay? And I tried to explain that these things don't happen overnight. These are years and decades of investments. 10 years ago, when I was chairman of the Committee on Health, I already knew that Thailand, which I'm sure you know, that's why I know I am not saying anything you don't know. I am just saying this so that you know, that I understand. 10 years ago, they were already at the forefront of research. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, they're one of the highest in terms of publication of scientific papers in Southeast Asia or maybe even Asia, di ba? So, ayun, one of the persons I've worked with is Dr. Montoya. And so nandun na yun, di ba? They've laid the groundwork. Their investments in pharmaceuticals, in medicines is really high, right? So it goes without saying na if there's a pandemic, naka-ready na sila. Tayo, wala naman tayong investment. We don't support our scientists the way they do. So I just want to say that so that you can now present your long-term plans on how do we get to that stage and not have these ridiculous assertions that, dapat tayo meron din. Or we don't have the labs. We don't have the support for the scientists. How will we do that? How will that happen overnight? So that's what I just wanted to put on record, Mr. Chairman. This is so frustrating on my end, and I'd say this time and again, na finally, nagkaroon ng konting boses ang mga scientists and ang mga health professionals also during this time of COVID. So you still have that opportunity to take advantage of that window to convince people that the time to invest has passed, but pwede pang humabol. Yun lang, Mr. Chairman.
And I literally hear you because I have a lot of lunch, dinners, and weekends with you. And just, as a way ng kwento pero totoo, yun din yung frustration niya about yung FDA, about yung tobacco, about yung kakulangan ng lab sa DOH before the pandemic. So yun ang problema ng Pilipino. Pag nangyari na, yun, saka sasabihin science naman. Pero bago nangyari, hindi bukang bibig ang science despite of the fact that medyo we moved the compass to point towards mathematics and science, no? So just the next 2 points I want to make is that in terms of number of researchers, the DOST has been pushing that we have at least 300 researchers per million population in 2022. However, the latest data shows that the World Bank showed that in 2018, which was 4 years ago pa naman, 174 researchers lang tayo per million population. Singapore has 6,824 per million, Malaysia 2,184 per million, and Thailand 1,758 researchers per million. The point I wanted to make here is because over, I think, lunch or late dinner with my sister and Mayor Lani the other night, they were talking about nga nung nagkaroon tayo ng social workers, tinesting lang ng City of Taguig. We have kasi a 7 or 800 million scholarship fund. So basta't graduate ka ng Taguig, automatically you get 15,000 to enroll, tapos up to 50,000. Then if it's centers of excellence like UP, you get 50,000. So sinubukan lang nila, and we have a program called the exact nomenclature no escapes me right now, but basically if it's a priority course, you get much more. So sinubukan lang nila, nilagay nila social workers, dumami talaga. So ibig sabihin, ito yung mga bata na gusto nila pero hindi makonvince parents nila kasi sasabihin walang pera dyan. And yung topic namin, if you're curious, is actually guidance counselors. Kasi maraming public school, walang guidance counselor. So like kami, lumaki kami, teacher nanay namin, abogado yung tatay namin. So in-encourage naman talaga kaming mekaniko yung lolo namin on the father side, a teacher on the father side yung lola, on the mother side beautician yung lola ko, on the mother side karpintero. So walang business person. So ibig sabihin like si ate, may nanood ng Jokoy ba sa inyo? Nanood ba kayo, Sek? Hindi, yung may concert siya ng isang araw eh. So tuwan-tuwa si wife ko kasi 10 minutes niya pinag-usapan si Mary Grace. No? So yung gumagawa ng Nutriban sa inyo, kausapin niyo si Jokoy kasi tuwan-tuwa siya dun sa Mary Grace. Alam mo si Mary Grace at si ate magkatabi sa Tiangge, sa bazaar every weekend. So natuto siya magnegosyo on her own. But we were wondering nga, wala silang role model kasi hindi naman negosyante parents namin. But with the proper guidance counselors, for example, in high schools, career guidance din, di ba, etc. Tapos ngayon, mental health issues naman. Ang principal, very important job, but she has all the people and but yung guidance counselor, kung isa ka lang sa school, ilan ang estudyante mo. But the point to make there is that incentives work. So if we can somehow put an incentive for students to go towards courses that emphasize research, we will meet our numbers. Senator Pia.
On that note, do all the Pisay schools have guidance counselors? Lahat naman meron. Okay, good. I'm glad because they're very hard to find. So I was surprised that he brought it up here because that's really my issue, and I'm glad he did. And we can have further discussions on that. But I'm glad that they do because there are a lot of students. I have a role model. When I started triathlon, and I didn't start it till I was 37, I think. Yung upcoming junior, and then she became Philippine team #1 in Southeast Asia. Pisay siya. Then she went on to UP, and then nagkaroon siya ng masters in physics. But she didn't end up in a science-related. But doing very well. I think she's in finance. So that's where the guidance counselors come in, di ba? Like, obviously, you want to push them, incentivize the areas where we want them. But dito naman sa Pilipinas, we still give them the freedom to choose. But laki pa rin nung influence na magagawa nung guidance counselor, especially if they don't have parents who know. Kasi like, again, like, I'm not, hindi kami nagpe-pretend ni Alan na mas magaling yung magulang namin sa iba. Sabi ko nga, in a sense, we were very limited in our choices because ako, our mother was a teacher, our father was a lawyer, and guess what the two professions I wanted to pursue? Teaching and law. Dun din. So it just goes to show na, you know, unless may ibang tao sa buhay mo na magbibigay ng ganong positive influence, you're kind of limited to what you see. And I'm just grateful that yun yung role models namin, di ba? So.
And we had great parents, we have a great mother with us who continues to guide us. But yun nga, di ba, Sec, knowledge kung hanggang saan, no? So, sorry kung naunahan kita dun sa issue ng guidance counselors, but I'm sure you will bring it up at the proper committee or the floor. Naunahan mo naman ako sa Pisay because I wanna take advantage na nandito yung mga kapatid natin sa media. I filed a resolution last week, and the core of the resolution is simple. Huwag niyong patayin ang pangarap ng mga bata. Because the different science schools and different, how do I put it, highly competitive schools, schools where basically honors ang mga pumapasok at may highly competitive exam. Dahil kumbaga sa athletes, elite athletes sila, hindi sing taas ang grading system nila sa iba. And UP is claiming to have a formula to equalize that. But kanina, before we started, Ate was asking, and can someone confirm or correct me? So from something between 99% passing rate sa UP ang Pisay, went down to sa 70s. Tama po ba? Mr. Delar, sir? Yeah. So, asan yan?
The one in charge sa DOST ng Pisay?
Eto,
Or
let me read it
Sorry.
kasi ano lang.
Deputy Director. Thank you.
Historically, the top 12 schools nationwide in terms of UPCAT mean scores are Philippine Science High School campuses with the average passing rate of 97 to 99% of takers. During the suspension of the UPCAT, PSHS not only lost its ranking but its passing rate dipped to 60.55. So I hope either I or Senator Pia will have the opportunity mamaya just to make a manifestation sa floor. And this is not only Philippine Science High School. We're talking about different high schools all around the country. And it's in the context of, because everyone wants to get into schools like UP, you have to make sure that the best of the best get in, di ba? Eh kung ang mangyayari nga, because whatever reason, ayaw nila mag-UPCAT, tapos hindi nila mapalitan ng mas magandang sistema. And the thing is, UP gets 23.41% of the budget of all SUCs around the country. So bakit yung Lasal, Ateneo, iba, either nag-innovate or meron na silang entrance exam? How come UP for that budget? Despite my differences with UP, I've never advocated a budget cut. But for me, this issue, parang talagang gusto kong tanungin ano ginagawa nyo sa pera nyo? Kasi the quality of your education, yes, will depend on your faculty, but will also depend on the quality of your students. And if the best of the best papakawalan mo, sayang. Having said that, to those, kung may nakikinig man, dun sa 37% na hindi pumasa, God is always good. I've heard in our own science high schools, some got scholarships abroad that they would not have considered before that. Having said that, ayokong makipagsapalaran. I don't wanna roll the dice pagdating ng future ng mga bata, di ba? Pasok pa lang ng first year yan, may kanya-kanyang kurso na iniisip. It can change, but more or less, pati kung anong school, and even our scholarship program in our city is geared towards the ranking of the school, di ba? Kasi if you want criminology, we want you to go to the top 3 schools ng criminology. You want to go into medicine, we want you to go into the top 3 schools of medicine. So mas mataas ang scholarship namin sa areas na yan. Eh kung sinabi naman sa amin ng UP na we will not get the best of the best in the next 3 years kasi hindi kami mag-uupkat, edi sana in-advisean na rin namin yung aming mga teachers, taas-taasan yung grades ng mga yan, o kaya sa iba na namin ilalagay yung scholarship. So, after the briefing, Sec, I know you will have a... Tapos na kayo sa House, sa budget hearing? Hindi pa? Yeah. So, I'd just like to emphasize before you go later how low the budget is vis-a-vis the other departments and vis-a-vis what you can do sa atin. I know lahat nakatutok sa agriculture and what it took 50 years for us to keep saying na naiiwanan na tayo ng Thailand bago dagdagan, etc. yung budget ng agri. So I hope hindi umabot ng ganon and I hope makinig. But maybe in your presentation or if not, we'll recap later on, Sec, na banggitin natin yung proposal nyo vis-a-vis yung inapprove so that we can try to build a coalition that will help you in your budget. Before I give the floor, do you wanna?
Mr. Chairman, can we get the total number of graduates from Pisay every year? From the different regions. I'm sure you have a breakdown, but I don't need a breakdown right now. Just a rough number. Nasa hundreds ba yun sa per campus? Or per campus?
While you're looking at that, I'll just give everyone an insight dito. Dalawa lang kaming senador ang lumaban sa K-12. Si Senator Trillanes at sa akin. Because the person helping me was a graduate ng Pisay. At sabi niya, sir, lahat ng gusto nilang gawin sa K-12, ginagawa na sa Pisay. And kung titignan mo din per student, mas malaki ang ginagastos ng gobyerno sa Pisay sa DepEd. So, galingan na lang natin doon. I don't know kung accurate kasi ito naman hindi official report, but I heard in the first 2 years of K-12, free time lang ang nagdagdag sa Pisay. Kasi nga, maganda na yung kanilang curriculum, no? I mentioned that because one of our discussions over the weekend is that maraming universities ayaw tanggalin yung GE courses because part of the convincing me not to object to K-12 is that yung idadagdag nila like Math 1 or Algebra, History, na idadagdag nila Constitutional Law, Rizal Studies, na idadagdag nila sa senior high school, tatanggalin nila sa GE course para yung 4 course maging 3 years na lang. Pero nung tinanong ko yung mga inaanak ko, mga pamangkin, etc. nag-aaral, kami nun sa UP, 15 okay lang, medyo underload, 18 yung load.
It's not underload. 15 is normal.
Okay, 15 to 18, okay. Huwag kang galit sa akin. 1 year akong
Kinokorek lang.
nahuli. Hanggang ngayon, galit pa rin na 1 year akong na-delay sa UP. But tama, 15 to 18 is not underload, but 21 at our time was already overload. Okay? But ngayon, ang average, kung hindi ako, at least dun sa tinatanungan ko is 24.
But that's not UP. I think UP is still trying to maintain it.
Yeah.
But what you're saying has been my observation also when we sat in the SUCs, no? Talagang 21, 24. It's really may ganun pa daw, yeah. So it's really terrible.
Mr. Senator, the 2022 graduate is 1,433. So far, 1,433 in 2022. In 2021, 1,346. So nag-i-increase ng konti. As more of the younger schools fill up their quota per year.
So anyway, you don't have it yet. The point I want to make, Mr. Chairman, is sabi mo nga, we give the youth, the children, the benefit of the doubt. If 97% ang average passing ng Pisay, then shouldn't the benefit of the doubt be that kaya nilang pumasok ng UP? And that 97 or at least, or I would say 100% of them should be accepted. That will be my move, Mr. Chairman, because why would you now prejudice them because the exam changed? You know, and I mean, and obviously this change was made in connection with the pandemic, not because there was really any intention prior to the pandemic to change the exam. So that would be my move, that they should be accepted across the board. And I was hoping that I had the figures when I made this. It's not really a motion yet, no. But when I make this, when I made this statement, but I will put on record later on the average number of freshmen every year in the entire UP campus, because not necessarily naman lahat papasok naman sa UP Diliman, di ba? So if we spread them out over the various UP campuses, I don't think it is being biased. It is not being unfair to accept them when the average has been that high. You can even prorate it by the actual passing rate per campus. If ang isang campus is 100 and then yung isa 90, di ganun din siguro. Something like that, Mr. President. I'm trying to look already for a solution to this horrible dilemma that we've put our students in. Thank you.
Let me update the two gentlemen to my left kasi ito yung mga may power sa Senate. Sa kaliwa ko, si Senator Robin Hood ang may star power. Yung nasa pinakakaliwa naman, majority leader, siya naman ang may power sa floor at sa legislation. Pinag-usapan namin kasi yung UPCAT for the third straight year, hindi naman daw gagawin. At meron daw silang analysis ng grades. Pero inabutan nga ako dito, and ako nagtanong hindi nagsumbong ang DOST. Ako nagtanong kasi nga, nagsusumbong yung mga estudyante sa Taguig, no? Na from dati, 97 to 99% na nag-uupkat ay nakakapasa sa UP ng taga Pisay. Ngayon, 60% na lang. Kasi when you go to an elite school, highly competitive, syempre yung teachers hindi ganun kataas magbigay ng grades. So syempre, pag kinumpute mo ngayon yung grades at tinitignan ng UP, one school where they give a lot of 90s does not mean na kapantay niya yung 85 dito sa school na ito. No, I hope it was like that, no? And in a country that's, let's say, as big as Singapore, they might be able to do something like that, or in city, in government, di ba? Pero sa Pilipinas na napakalaki, alam naman natin na hindi ganon, no? So ang problema, talagang nasira yung pangarap ng marami nating kabataan. And it's the third year, no? And I've been told stories ng mga bata na talagang na-depress, sobrang umiiyak kasi nga alam na nila eh. Nung sinabi pa lang na walang UPCAT, alam na nila. Bakit? Kasi hindi naman sila top 10 sa Pisay. Pero alam nilang kaya nilang pumasa kung meron exam. So, something really we have to do something about before it's too late. So, before I again turn over to the Secretary for the very interesting briefing he's going to give, our Majority Leader, Senator Joel Villanueva, for a brief or opening statement, or even a long statement.
Sure.
brother.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity, dear colleagues. Good afternoon. Secretary Solidum. I've been defending the budget of the UST for quite some time, and I'm sure they're all aware of our efforts in the past years. We are here to help in any way we can. My concern really is the salt industry, as you have heard my statement for quite some time. We have about 36,000 kilometers of coastline. I think fifth in the world. And yet 93% of our requirement ng asin ini-import natin sa China and Australia. Parang napakasakit naman yata nun, no? In 1990s, if I'm not mistaken, 15% lang yung ini-import natin. Now we're it's as much as 93%. We are an archipelago, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it's unacceptable. I have seen a lot of DOST initiatives, like for example, the awarding of salt production facility in Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University, North La Union campus. And then you also develop a locally designed salt harvester to mechanize the process of salt crushing, etc. I'm just wondering, as we go on, what are we doing in order to help our salt industry? I hope that we can do something about it, kasi parang it's really unacceptable na as in ang hirap na tanggapin na 93% inaangkat natin, no? Another thing is the promotion of digital skills. Yung plans ng DOST in terms of designing programs, Senator Pia and I have been pushing for this for quite some time, yung upskilling, retooling, training in line with the recent passage of Republic Act number 11927, or the Philippine Digital Workforce Competitiveness Act. I think DOST would play a significant role there. That's what I'm hoping to hear, and I have a great respect kay Secretary Solidum, and nandito kami para tumulong in any way we can, and we're hoping and praying na itong very challenging times na kinakaharap natin, makaka-respond tayo effectively. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. Maraming salamat, Secretary.
Well, two things about the statement of the Majority Leader. Number one, Brad, before you came in, both the Secretary and I started with a verse. Siya po ang pastor natin dito. So, itra-translate ko yung sinabi ni Joel in his pastor language. Dapat ang Pilipinas, salt and light. Wala na tayong salt. So, hindi ka pwede maging salt and light kasi 'di ba ang salt, 'di ba? Hindi lang pampalasa yan, pampreserve. Yan yung ano doon. And Brother Robin, inshallah, will also share with us the perspectives no nung how spiritual and physical come together in kaya I think Senator Robin welcomes yung one DOST kasi ang daming nakakawatak-watak sa ating bansa. Secondly, yung binanggit ni Senator Joel, yung budget, we really have to form a coalition majority leader to help dahil hindi talaga top of mind ang DOST ng politiko na dagdagan ng budget. By the way, Joel is a frequent visitor sa residence namin when we were congressmen. So, dumadaan din sa harap ng DOST parati yan. So, maglalagay na lang sila ng sign doon na walang pangalan pero makonsensya na lang kayo.
Mr.
So,
Chairman.
thank you sa tumulong, sa hindi tumulong, makonsensya na lang kayo.
I have to step out, but I wanted to listen to the presentation. I'll try to come back right away. But can I just make a quick comment no, on the statement of our Majority Floor Leader? Yung tungkol sa asin. Al, I don't know if you remember, kasi taga Parañaque kami. And di ba asinan yon? Naalala mo pa yon? Oo, yung all the way, yung buong sukat, hindi pa nga sementado yung sukat, all the way to the airport, puro ano yun. I mentioned that because I chaired the Committee on Sustainable Development, Innovation and Futures Thinking. Kung may futures thinking sana tayo noon, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, which medyo obviously nga hindi, dapat for every salt bed na tinanggal doon, inisip kung saan ililipat, di ba? Pero walang planning eh. So I'm letting you know that my committee will also be very happy. It will be an honor for me to work with you because that is what we want to instill, this futures thinking. And I'm also aware that because of the need for iodine in the diet, di ba, naging issue din yan. So parang anong nangyari ba, and you know it better than me, it was probably easier to import than to convert rock salt, and that there goes again na ang hina natin sa processing, right? So it just takes a little bit of planning, and I think everybody here is well equipped to present these better programs for us, because in my committee I look at it through the lens of the future. My job is to always bring up whether 2, 3, 4, or would you believe in other offices, they consider 7 generations hence. Will 7 generations hence be thankful? Ito nga lang, 1 generation lang, hindi na tayo thankful dun sa nangyaring nawala yung mga asin lang, nawala pa. Diba? So that's my one. And then the second point, I wanted to wait for the presentation, but since I have to step out, I might lose my opportunity, but I will try to come back. I just want you to know that I need you to work closely with DOH, because whether we need 2, 3, 4, 10 centers that are capable of stepping up our research and our production of anything that has to do with pandemics, with dealing with viruses and so on and so forth. You tell us. I just don't want there to be a turf war between DOH and DOST. It is my position that RITM has been neglected, abused, hindi pinansin, because when I chaired the Committee on Health for almost 10 years, lahat ng request ko for budgeting on behalf of RITM, hindi pinapansin. Nung nagka-pandemic, wow, thank you, may RITM kasi meron pala tayong PCR sa buong Pilipinas. Yun lang ang nakapagpaandar ng PCR. So ngayon, I will be honest, I would feel very badly if suddenly the light is shined upon a virology center that is purely with DOST, and then kinalimutan na naman si RITM. So all I'm saying is, work together. We need to invest so much more than just one virology center. Let's not have a turf war. Let's work together and have as many centers of excellence as possible. Yun lang, Mr. Chairman, and I will be back as soon as I
I'll
can.
recap that. No? So the senators are NGL. We support that. Wag lang talagang help us fix na walang turf war, no? The same manner na many support the Department for Disaster Resilience and Response, pero hindi acceptable sa DOST na yung Philvox, di ba, mailipat din sa kanila for very good reasons, no? Before I give the floor to the Secretary at ibibigay ko na talaga sa yung floor, Sec, I'd just like to acknowledge, so one of our point person dito will be a former Assistant Secretary of DOST, Ted Gatchalian, who was a regional director when Joel Villanueva was the TESDA chair. And then, sabi ko naman sa iyo, Sec, marami kang kakampi, hindi lang sa lupa, because the famous Mr. Ray Langit seems to be also a famous supporter. So, sa lupa at sa langit, meron ka ng supporter. Sa Muslim, sa Kristiyano, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao ay may supporters na ang DOST. So, without further ado, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Senator, for all the support. Let me start by providing you the DOST presentation. Can I have the first slide? We will focus on first on the DOST priority legislative agenda, then issues and concerns, DOST overview. First slide muna. Okay, so next slide, please. Shown on the screen will be the outline of my presentation. As mentioned, we'll talk about legislative agenda, issues and concerns, overview of DOST, and I think you are well aware of what DOST is, the Philippine ranking in the Global Innovation Index, our directions for 2022 to 2028, together with the significant accomplishments and some budget details. Next slide. First, on the priority agenda. Next slide. We have the following proposed legislative agenda. First will be the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines Act. Second is Science for Change Program. Third is Comprehensive Atomic Regulations Act. Fourth is National Measurement Infrastructure System. And then One Lab Program Act. And let me provide you with the details of these different proposed agenda. Next. On the Virology and Vaccine Institute, this is to establish a center which would not only focus on virus that will affect human health, but also animals and plants. So this is not simply on human health, so that we can develop vaccine diagnostics, therapeutics, medical procedures, among others. And these will serve as a venue for collaboration with local and foreign virology experts. Several bills have been filed in the Senate by different senators as shown. The creation of the VIP is also an important thing that the President stated in the SONA, and we will tie this up with our other programs like the Balik Scientists Program, where Filipinos working abroad are very interested in really helping the country fully develop this institute. We will also collaborate and cooperate with foreign experts. Obviously, there will be interdepartmental cooperation, as mentioned by Senator Pia Cayetano, and for the information of all the senators, the DOH and the DOST has really made a very good collaboration in research through the National Unified Health Research Agenda. And so this will be a very important action. But while the legislation is being passed, the DOST has already started several research programs starting 2021 to look into this. Next slide. The Science for Change program agenda is really a game changer in terms of increasing the research and development of our country through the engagement not only of higher education institutes, but as well as private organizations with the Department of Science and Technology. And the Science for Change program will be a major implementer of our harmonized national research agenda and expand the various science, technology, and innovation programs of DOST. The Harmonized Research and Development Agenda has been prepared up to 2028, but of course, we will have more consultations with the new secretaries so that we can address the current problems that different departments and different sectors are facing. Next slide. The Comprehensive Atomic Regulation Act is a legislation to have an independent regulatory body that will decide on issues regarding the peaceful use of ionizing radiation affecting public health and safety, protection of the environment, and nuclear security and safeguards. Currently po, the regulatory group is also with the research group under the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, so they must be separated. Next slide. The National Measurement Infrastructure Systems Act is to amend Republic Act number 9236 so that the implementation of the country's measurement system will be at par with international best practices and foster a metrology culture. Once enacted, legal metrological controls will be established in the interest of fair trade, public health and safety, law enforcement, and environmental protection. This will be very important in the products that we actually produce so that they can also have a fair chance of being competitive abroad. Lastly, next slide. The One Laboratory Program Act is to promote and facilitate the transfer, dissemination, and effective use, management, and commercialization of accredited laboratory services, referral system, technology and knowledge resulting from linkages, and support funded by the government for the benefit of our national economy and taxpayers. We have so many labs, but we still have to further maintain and increase these different labs so that we can actually be effective and efficient, and this will be available in all regions of the country. Next, I will discuss the issues and concerns, and many of these have been tackled already in the opening statements. Next slide. The first was already stated is that we have low budgetary allocation for science and technology. The DOST's 2022 budget is only 0.51% of the total government budget, and R&D expenditure is only 0.32% of the GDP as of 2018, compared to other countries, as already mentioned by Senator Alan Cayetano, where Malaysia would spend around 1.44%, Singapore 1.12%, or 1.89% in 2019. We also have some issues on the low adoption of technologies, products, and services developed from publicly funded research and development, even by national government agencies and local government units. We need to support our local researchers and inventors so that they have a fair chance for their technologies to be adopted. Currently, procurement law is restrictive on the use of these technologies because they have to compete with already available technologies even from other countries. Number three, the continuity of public investment for science and technology programs and projects, including the establishment of the Virology and Vaccine Institute. The continuity, of course, will be dependent on the support that will be provided to the various DOST programs that I will now show. Next slide. Before I do that, let me just give you an overview of the DOST's mandate, mission, and vision. Obviously, the mandate of DOST is to provide a central direction, leadership, and coordination on scientific and technological efforts and ensure that these results are utilized for the maximum economic and social benefit for the people. And our mission is to direct, lead, and coordinate the technological efforts, again, related to the maximum economic and social benefit. We want DOST, as our vision, to be an organization which is a provider of world-class scientific, technological, and innovative solutions that will lead to higher productivity and better quality of life. Next slide. Under the Department of Science and Technology would be 18 organizations divided into 4 groups. The first 3, the sectoral planning councils, the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development, or PCARD, would be focused on the policymaking and provision of funding related to agriculture, aquatic resources, and natural resources. The Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, or PCHRD, would now be focused on health and nutrition, and the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technologies Research and Development would now cover the rest on industry, environment, and other technologies. The plans are implemented through the 7 research and development institutes. We have the Advanced Science and Technology Institute, where typically they go into electronics and ICT and other new things. The Food and Nutrition Research Institute, or FNRI, would be focused on looking at the nutrition status and needs of our population. The Forest Products Research and Development Institute, or FPRDI, will now go into research and development on how to utilize our forest products better. The Industrial Technology and Development Institute is the oldest organization within DOST, much older than us, and they cover many things related to the industry, and that would include the salty topic, asin. MIRDC is the Metals Industry Research and Development Center, which would focus on the use of metals, and this is really a very big help to the industry. And for your information, Mr. Senators, this would be the lead organization in developing our hybrid trains and road trains. The Philippine Nuclear Research Institute would be the lead organization for the use of nuclear energy for medicine, for agriculture industry, and also for power, but they also have the regulatory division under them. The Philippine Textile, or PTRI, Philippine Textile Research Institute, would focus on maximizing the use of our native fibers to assist our textile industry. Now, for the service institutes, ito po yung mga organizations that have specific purposes. The first two, PAGASA and FIVOX, would focus on monitoring and warning, hazards and risk assessment, and provision of preparedness and risk reduction efforts in collaboration with other agencies on weather and geophysical events. The Philippine Science High School system would now focus on providing scholarships to scientifically inclined deserving students all over the country. The Science Education Institute would provide scholarships for undergraduate, master's and PhD students, and also provide training to our teachers. The Science, Technology, and Information Institute would be our advocacy arm for science culture and information. And lastly, the Technology, Application, and Promotion Institute would be the marketing arm of the DOST in trying to commercialize the technologies that DOST develops, and also link with our inventors. The last two are collegial and scientific bodies that is attached to the DOST. The National Research Council of the Philippines is the biggest group there, handling different sciences, and the National Academy of Science and Technology would be an elite group of academicians and scientists, and both can provide science policies and even research implementation for key topics. Next slide. The Philippines has really improved a lot from 83rd rank in 2015 to 51st in 2021 in the Global Innovation Index, which is actually an index of how innovation helps in the overall wealth creation of the country. In fact, we have reached the highest position, 50th, in 2020. And the Philippines is considered one of the 4 countries in the middle income bracket that really have been considered as innovation achievers despite the input that is not so high compared to other countries. This is made possible through the department's efforts as a major producer of the pool of science and technology professionals in the country, and the effort of various sectors, especially the private sector, on business sophistication. Next slide. To further improve our ranking and to make sure that we really are aligned to the economic agenda of the President, next slide please, the following are our priorities. We will align the grants and aid financing towards a more equitable operation in the national, regional, and provincial levels. And we will merge the socio-economic agenda through the use of science, technology, and innovation, where we can actually summarize all the DOST's effort into 4 major groups. First is wealth creation or generation. So we will create technology-based enterprises and jobs. Second is to promote human well-being of Filipinos for health, nutrition, and many other aspects. We also need to protect the wealth that we create through disaster and climate resilience efforts. And lastly, of course, all of us wanted to make sure that our efforts are sustainable, where we are able to let future generation to still use our natural resources. The priorities that are aligned to the economic agenda are shown on the right, and I will go through each one in more detail. And as I present this, I will also be presenting the significant accomplishments under this priority agenda. Next slide. On job creation and countryside development or regional development through science, technology, and innovation, we have the Science for Change program, created to accelerate science, technology, and innovation in the country to keep up with developments in our time, where technology and innovation will be used in significantly accelerating our research and development through the higher education institutions, the industry, and government R&D institutions. There are 4 programs, sub-programs under this: NICER, CRADLE, RD Lead, and BIST. Next slide. The first program under Science for Change is the NEET Centers in the Regions for Research and Development. We call this NICER program. We provide support to qualified higher education institutions, mostly SUCs, and research organizations, including hospitals, so that they can undertake quality research directed at solving the problems that are prevalent in the region, or to promote regional development through specific R&D center establishment. And so far, we have established 43 NEET centers in the region. Just to name some examples would be an R&D center on DRM and health in UP Manila, on lake sustainable development in Laguna, on smart water infrastructure management in Region 2, on coastal engineering in Don Mariano Marcos, on potato and sweet potato research and development. We have R&D centers for mollusks, crustaceans, and many others, even advanced storage facilities. So this is actually a very good program so that we can focus on the current problems in various regions in the country. The R&D Lead program strengthens the research capabilities of the academe, other government agencies, and research and development institutions by assigning an R&D expert so that the organizations can now undergo the research and development. The next 2 would be related to the industry. The first is the Collaborative Research and Development to Leverage Philippine Economy, or CRADLE program. And we link the academe, or RDI, or Research and Development Institution, to partner with a Filipino company to undertake research and development to improve the productivity of the company. For example, the University of Southeastern Philippines, working with the Iho's company, who was focused on banana in southern Mindanao, to develop an advanced banana pest monitoring system. So far, we have intervened and assisted 86 CRADLE projects. The Business Innovation through Science, Technology, and Innovation Program, or BIST, is to provide financial assistance to Filipino private companies for the acquisition of strategic and relevant technologies so that they can undertake their research and development and improve their prototype. We have supported 4, and this would include biotech companies and IT companies. Next slide. The next 2 would be really focusing on Small Enterprise Technology Upgrading Program, which is a nationwide strategy to boost micro, small, and medium enterprises by providing them technical guidance and financing so that they can improve their product. And so far, close to 5,000 MSMEs have been assisted on as of June 30, 2022. We will scale this up. We will call this Setup 4.0 so that we can now use the various ICT tools in further improving their productivity. The third is very important because there are still many communities in the country that are isolated and very poor. So the Community Empowerment through Science and Technology program is aimed to improve the socioeconomic condition of communities considered as the poorest of the poor through 5 entry points: health and nutrition, environmental protection and conservation, human resource development, economic enterprise or livelihood, and disaster risk reduction and management. So far, we have assisted 1,020 communities as of June 30. The next slides would focus on the innovation in the LGUs and for overseas Filipinos working distantly from the Philippines. The first here is the iStart program, which will accelerate regional technology-based development together with the local governments. And so far, we have provided 176 researchers, scientists, and engineers, 13 investors to develop 21 products as of June 30. The Innovations for Filipinos Working Distantly from the Philippines, or iForward PH program, is really a very unique program where I witnessed the change in the lives of our kababayans who are considered mga bagong bayani. We have trained them in 2 phases. One would be the business, and then the other one would be on the proposal, and some have already started. We either assist the families of the OFW, or those that have returned, or those who plan to return to the Philippines because of their businesses. So far, we have assisted 28 OFWs that started their companies as of June 30. We started this program May of 2020. On the next slide would be the Technology Innovation for Commercialization, or Technicom program of the Technology Application and Promotion Institute to provide grants to fast-track the transfer and commercialization of viable, locally developed innovations and technologies geared towards market readiness. We have supported 52 projects from 2016 to 2020. Next slide. On the Technology Business Incubation Program, we have established 54 technology business incubation facilities and 16 innovation hubs, mostly in SUCs, so that the research entrepreneurs will be able to nurture and accelerate the establishment and growth of technology-based startups through the provision of business and mentoring support. The Startup Grant Fund Program is a program to initiate and overcome R&D roadblocks using prototype improvement, conduct of feasibility studies, development of product specifications, as well as validate user requirements and other things. We have funded 58 startups, and many are interested in availing of this program. The next priority would be on food security, but I would mention that there are certain lead departments in several aspects of agriculture, and what DOST would provide would be on value addition. So for example, to increase the productivity of certain crops, we were able to develop through the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute a plant growth promoter using a red seaweed, whereby actually spraying the leaves or foliage of rice, mungo, or peanut, we can increase their crop yield because the nutrients is directly filled in the stomata or the eyes of the leaves, rather than also giving nutrients to the roots through fertilizer that is typically provided in the soil. So as much as 15 to 30% increase in crop yield can be attained out of this plant growth promoter. We also have developed cheaper fertilizer in many parts of our research. We will also be focusing on agricultural food commodities to address concerns on supply or import substitution, like the root crops, limited planting materials, pest and diseases management, processing, value adding, and many other things. I'd like also to mention that we, together with the government organizations and local fabricators, have been producing farm machines that can actually help reduce the losses in rice during harvest. For example, as much as 16% of rice is lost during harvesting, but through the combined rice harvester, for example, where aside from reaping, threshing, cleaning, you can also put it in a bag, around 3% loss would only be realized. So malaki po ang natitipid. On the coconut industry, we can actually produce more seedlings out of one nut through the technology coconut somatic embryogenesis technology compared to a traditional one nut, one seedling. We can have 250 to 300 and up to close to 1,000 if possible with more research. We also look into food and nutrition, especially on enhancement of our food products, and we are also developing smart food value chain models for selected agricultural products with supply chain maps and intervention options. Next slide. We have established in different regions of the country food innovation centers to provide assistance to enhance the innovative capacities of micro, small, and medium enterprises in the food industry to improve the quality of their existing products. 25 food innovation centers throughout the country has helped many of the MSMEs to improve their quality, the quality of the food, and of course, gain more employment and improve their productivity. Next slide. On health, PCHRD is focused on drug discovery and development of functional foods, diagnostics, by the way. In terms of COVID diagnostics, we had the Gen Amplify COVID test kit that was produced during the pandemic, where it was repurposed originally for dengue. And so we had a Filipino made RT-PCR testing. We also have researches related to hospital equipment and biomedical devices, ICT on health, and other initiatives that would further improve diagnostics. Now, virology is part of it, as mentioned already, and will be mentioned again. On next slide, on a very innovative project of the PCHRD on health, we have this RX box, which is a multi-component program designed to provide better access to life-saving healthcare services in isolated and disadvantaged communities nationwide. And so this can be availed of local government units, especially in the barangays, so that they can be provided with scientific monitoring, and the device is capable of capturing medical signals through built-in medical sensors, storing data in an electronic medical record, and transmitting health information via internet to a clinical specialist. Next slide. Of course, we have many efforts to really improve our nutrition, especially for disasters. We have the ready-to-eat disaster relief food, which is better eaten because of their nutritional value at mas masarap. Like, for example, the Pack of Hope with the arroz caldo and many other flavors. Years ago, when I was still in the elementary, I used to eat Nutriban, but we need to provide more nutrition with the products that we have. So the the Food and Nutrition Research Institute has developed these enhanced Nutriban, squash, and carrot variants, where many of our micro, small, and medium enterprises have availed of its technology so that they can provide this to different areas in the country. Next slide. Water will be a big problem, and actually we are facing this problem. Sometimes we have too much water and very few water. So we have projects related to water security, such as watershed studies, water quality, accessibility, and availability through monitoring technologies. Next slide. We will also have some programs on energy security, where we will explore the potential of waste-to-energy facility, but this needs to have a very good waste management in a specific community so that we have a more or less sustainable feed to this facility. New technologies for development and improvement of energy storage of mga batteries are also being explored together with the Department of Energy. And we will maximize the use of microgrid solar systems to provide communities with sustainable energy requirement. Next slide. On transport,
Sec, excuse me. Lack of time,
sige po.
but I'll make sure that if you give me a digital copy, because one of the advocacy nga ni Senator Pia, less paper.
Sige po.
So we'll give everyone. But we have 5 minutes, so if
sige
you
po.
wanna,
I will.
kung ano yung pinaka-importante. Then, Sec, if it's, after you, I'll make a proposal of how we can speed up your priorities.
Sige po. Ito po yung, gusto ko lang banggitin po ito, Mr. Senator, because this is what you discussed with me earlier, is on the development of hybrid transport systems. And we have the available technologies already for hybrid trains, road train, and automated guided transit, which is elevated. And we are happy that PNR is pushing for the use of this electronic train, and other cities are using the hybrid road train. The electric tricycle and e-jeepneys are also available, together with the support systems like very fast charging and the use of lightweight materials for tricycles so that they are less, they are heat insulated, hindi po masyadong mainit, and also development of a hybrid vessel utilizing not only the fossil fuel but also the ocean wave for energy. Next slide. Sige pa. You know naman po yung aming climate and disaster resilience. We will continue that. Scholarships po. We have around 50,000 scholars as of last year.
Sec, sa scholars, are we keeping up with the amount needed or medyo tinatamaan na ng inflation? So far, okay tayo.
Okay naman, and we have adjusted some of this during the pandemic po. But we will give suggestions if in case kulang na. Next slide. Next. Okay, ito po yung mga facilities that we have, the advanced manufacturing, and we will have the Virology and Vaccine Institute building to be established in Clark. Next slide. Sige, next na lang. Next pa. Okay. One last thing is we wanted to spearhead the development of smart and sustainable cities and communities using the technologies done by DOST, and we hope to have one pilot per province. Lastly, next slide. Ito po ang total budget natin, 24.064 billion. Next slide. And compared to our proposed budget, 2023, 44.173 billion, the approved budget is 24.0, and this is slightly less, no? 203 million pesos less than the 2022 GAA. So that's it, Mr. Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary. As usual po, sanay kayong magbigay ng maikli pero malaman na mga statements. Just a quick proposal, and we don't have to finalize today. If we can both get in touch with our counterparts sa House, tapos instead of a technical working group per bill, probably what we can do is come up with an agreed roadmap for DOST, for your administration, for the Marcos administration, then work on it together and have a time frame for everything. As usual, hindi naman natin kontrolado yung time frame, but katulad sa amin, nandyan yung majority leader, I can give it to him and, you know, more or less, rather than be a guessing game in the next 6 years. Diba? Meron tayong mga targets. And then, of course, it can be a growing target. Secondly, ay pinabunot ko yung bill na final ko, at tama po kayo, ah, tama yung title ko pero yung parts of it kasi ang title, Establishing a Framework for a Smart Philippines, Ensuring Accessible, Affordable Internet for All, Appropriating Funds there for and for other purposes, no? So tama kanina for the purpose of for the sake nung DOST family, sinasabi nga ni Secretary, yung pagiging smart ng isang city goes beyond ICT. No, it's everything. And tama nga naman, kahit naman sa bahay, kahit sa mga, whether it's yung pang blood pressure mo or refrigerator mo, it's all connected, no? So the reason lang naman na nilagay ko na Smart Philippines instead of Smart City kasi kawawa naman yung municipalities at cities na walang pondo. So dapat yung framework is for everyone, then baka we can get funding paano yung iba. To be very, very forthright, Mr. Majority Leader, concerned yung staff ko kasi nga ginamit ko Smart Philippines. So sabi ko sa kanila, gusto nyo gawin yung Global Smart Philippines. Sabi nila, sir, may dito. Di sabihin kong Global Smart dito sa Philippines. Diba? So, kung ano man, but kaya ko lang po ginamit yon and yung humor doon kasi nomenclatures matter. So, unless there is a scientific or historical reason, no, for our abbreviations or nomenclatures, yung wife ko kasi ibang